Greece's outspoken finance minister has resigned, hours after voters backed his call to reject creditors' demands for more austerity in a referendum. Yanis Varoufakis said it was felt his departure would be helpful in finding a solution to the country's debt crisis. Eurozone finance ministers, with whom he repeatedly clashed, had wanted him removed, Mr. Varoufakis explained. Meanwhile, global financial markets have fallen over fears that Greece is heading for an exit from the euro. The European Central Bank, ECB, is to discuss whether to raise its emergency cash support for Greek banks, which are running out of funds and on the verge of collapse. Greece's economy minister, Georgios Stathakis, told the BBC the ECB had to keep Greek banks alive for 7 to 10 days so that negotiations could take place. But even if the ECB continued to freeze the emergency liquidity assistance, ELA, at €89 bn, £63 bn, $98 bn, the current cash withdrawal and transfer restrictions on banks of €60 per day could stay in place until Friday, without any of them collapsing, he said. Follow the latest updates. BBC Europe editor Katja Adler says the 19-nation Eurozone's most powerful members, France and Germany, are at odds over what to do next, with France taking a softer and Germany a harder line. German Chancellor Angela Merkel will meet French President François Hollande in Paris later on Monday, and there will be a summit of Eurozone leaders on Tuesday. The majority of Greeks say they want to stay in the single currency, but their angry no vote in Sunday's referendum has made that far harder, our correspondent adds. Creditors' loathing. Mr. Varoufakis announced his resignation on his blog only hours after it emerged that 61.3% of the 6.16 million Greeks who voted had rejected the demands for more austerity from the ECB, the European Commission and the International Monetary Fund, IMF. He said Sunday's referendum would stay in history as a unique moment when a small European nation rose up against debt bondage. Mr. Varoufakis added that he had been made aware of a certain preference by some Eurogroup participants, and assorted partners, for my absence from its meetings. Prime Minister Tsipras had judged this to be potentially helpful to him in reaching an agreement, he noted. Belgian Finance Minister Johan van Overtveld told VRT Radio, to say that it wasn't nice to hear him more or less saying that his fellow ministers were terrorists is of course an understatement. As thousands of Greeks took to the streets to celebrate the referendum result on Sunday evening, Mr. Tsipras said they had made a very brave choice. The mandate you gave me is not the mandate of a rupture with Europe, but a mandate to strengthen our negotiating position to seek a viable solution, he added. He said that he was willing to go back to the negotiating table on Monday, noting that an International Monetary Fund, IMF, assessment published this week confirmed that restructuring Greece's debt of more than €300 bn, £213 bn, $331 bn, was necessary. The BBC's Chris Morris in Athens says there is huge skepticism in other capitals and this is a big gamble. Without some sign that an agreement on longer-term funding is still possible, the ECB could soon be forced to pull the plug, he adds. Eurozone finance ministers said they expected to hear new proposals from the Greek authorities when they meet in Brussels on Tuesday. The basis of a dialogue is on the table, but it's up to Greece to show us that it takes the dialogue seriously, French Finance Minister Michel Sapin told Europe 1 Radio. German government spokesman Stefan Siebert said conditions to start negotiations on a new aid program are not met yet. The European Commission's Vice President for the Euro, Valdis Dombrovskis, said the stability of the Eurozone was not in question. But he also stated that the Commission had not been given a mandate by member states to negotiate. In a telephone conversation with Mr. Tsipras, Russian President Vladimir expressed support for the people of Greece as they overcome difficulties, Russian media reported. Greece had been locked in negotiations with its creditors for months when the Greek government unexpectedly called a referendum on the terms it was being offered. Greece's last bailout expired on Tuesday and Greece missed a euro 1.6 bn, pound 1.1 bn, payment to the IMF. The European Commission, one of the troika of creditors along with the IMF and the ECB, wanted Athens to raise taxes and slash welfare spending to meet its debt obligations. Greece's Syriza-led government, which was elected in January on an anti-austerity platform, said creditors had tried to use fear to put pressure on Greeks.